Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maureen O'Connor from Quilter 7 in Northbrook, Illinois, and I am the Opinionated Quilter. Today's episode, number 108, is Let the Giveaway Begin. Yes, I have pieced quilt tops that I want to give away to you, my viewers. But before I get to that, I'd like to address a question that a viewer gave me after the World's Greatest Scrap Quilt episode. And she indicated she was a new quilter and had scraps, but they were a limited number of scraps. And of course, one of my other viewers suggested she buy more fabric. Well, the whole idea of the World's Greatest Scrap Quilt is to use what you have. So I'd like to address this issue for this viewer and anyone else who has ever had trouble when you're trying to place fabrics randomly and you're struggling because the same fabric keeps meeting up together. My answer to you is this. When you have trouble with random, what you need to do, or what I suggest you do, is switch to a pattern rather than random. And right here is a great example of this. This is Gudrun Erla's pattern from Strip Your Stash. And I made this several years ago. And I got 4 blocks per 2 strips of fabric. And as I laid them out, I couldn't get them distributed well. So what I did was I laid them out in a pattern. You can see this is the same. Those are the 4 blocks there. Here's 4 again. And then I had to fill in between. And I have these 4 this way. This 4 is split up this way. But you can do your pattern any way you want to do it. But when you're having trouble, that's always something to consider. What if I do pattern instead of random? That's exactly the difference of the 2 quilts here behind me. That is from the no waist 2.5-inch strip quilt, which I call, coin collecting super size, which is this one. And if you look at this, and if you saw this episode, it's only 4 strip sets to make this. And there's only 2 blocks. They're identical blocks. This is the same block as this. And you can see I didn't even turn this so that it flipped the other way so that it was different than this. They're identical. This is the same as this. This is the same as this. And so on. There's only 2 blocks. And that helps me because then I don't have to worry about the same fabric meeting up next to the same fabric. Here is the smaller coin collecting version, which you can see this is all scraps. None of these blocks are identical. But what's different about this quilt is that it actually employs both ways. It's a pattern in the backgrounds. I always talk about not wanting to have to buy fabric for a background. Well, I didn't have one for this, but I had 4 that were similar in color. So while there's no duplication of these parts of the blocks, the backgrounds are in a pattern. I had 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 backgrounds. So these are the same. These are the same. It's all, the backgrounds are in a pattern while the center parts are totally scrappy. Gonna take a quick break. I want to show you how you can do it with the World's Greatest Scrap Quilt, which was the commenter's original question. This is a very typical World's Greatest Scrap Quilt that I've made. There are so many fabrics in here. You have no trouble doing it totally random and just laying them out. So what would you do with the block like this that you have limited numbers of fabrics? Now this is just a sample, and you may say, oh, I wouldn't place the white next to the gray. This is never going to be in a quilt. I only piece these together to show you a way to have a limited number of fabrics and still be able to make this scrap quilt. So if you've seen the video on the world's greatest scrap quilt or have the pattern, it is a vertical block and a horizontal block, even though they look exactly alike. So what I did was I made these columns exactly the same. And I don't have to worry about them because they're on the inside and they won't touch anything else on the outside. So I did have to change the first column and the last column. So in my vertical, I have the yellow and the purple, and on my horizontal, I have the black and the white. And when I test it out, because of course the first time I tried it, I had two fabrics the same touching. So I had to play with it for a little bit. And that's okay. When you're trying to plan something out, a lot of times the first thing you try doesn't work. So what you want to do is make your blocks, or you could just lay out your pieces and look at it. And then you need to put them together so that you can see how it works. Now, I would too then take my first one here. Oops, a little hard to keep them all up here. And I would see here if I'm still okay, that there's nothing the same touching, and I'm okay there. And let's just put this one back up to make sure nothing's touching here, and we're all good. So that's the answer to when you have a limited number, is just strategically place your fabrics, make identical blocks, or in this case, two different blocks, and you can get a very successful quilt still with a limited number of fabrics and not have to go buy more to use your scraps. So that's the lesson of today, but now I want to talk about the giveaway. Every time I go through my stack of quilt tops, I see quilt tops there that in my head I say, I'm never going to quilt that quilt. I have so many that I'm anxious to quilt, and I keep making more, so that there's some that are so far down on the list that I am going to die before they are quilted. And I don't want to leave them with my kids who aren't going to want to do anything with them, and quite literally don't know how to quilt them, don't know how to bind them. So I have decided I want to find a good home for all of the quilts that I have that I am not going to quilt. I've just started and I have a stack of quilt tops, but I will also go through, I've already seen some table runners and smaller pieces that I will add to the pile too. And I'm going to do one a week until I've given them all away. But I really want someone who wants it, who will quilt it and finish it. Let me show you the first one. And by the way, they're not ugly. I just have others I like better. Usually, I have a tag on these quilts that tells me the name of it. I have no idea what the name of it is. I'm calling this one Water Wheel. It is 48 inches square. It's beautifully pieced, and it's coordinated fabrics. It's very lovely. And if you want this quilt, you need to be subscribed. You need to like it, and you need to put water wheel into a comment. So we will then go over all the people who commented water wheel. We'll take a random winner from those people. United States mailing only, please. And I will ask you to email me if you're the winner, and I will ship it off to you right away. This is the first of many. Like I said, I'm going to keep going till they're all gone, so be sure you watch every week to see if there's a quilt top or table runner or wall hanging that you would like to finish and keep. That's today's episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget water wheel. And until next time, happy sewing.